It's fair to say how Vancouver has been part of a lot of trade rumors with every star since they started the season by losing the first 7 games. And when I say every star, I mean literally every star. We've seen rumors about Brock Boeser, Bo Horvat, JT Miller, OEL, Connor Garland, Tyler Myers, Thatcher Demko, and even at one point Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes were dragged into the mix. But thankfully the Canucks made it very clear that they would rather not like to trade those two away, especially Pettersson, who's having a fantastic year right now. But to the rumors, there seems to be no end to it. I mean, literally nothing has gone their way. They just fired Bruce Boudreau and they continue to fall into the bottom of the standings, most likely tanking for a high draft pick. Now we have the trade deadline getting a little closer as the days go, and there seems to be an igniting flame during the press conferences, especially with Jim Rutherford. This could be huge for Vancouver. I mean, there are going to be massive changes occurring. Coaching changes, management changes, and potentially a new core. With that being said, it's very likely that Captain Bo Horvat is the first guy to go. At this point, with all we've seen with the Canucks, I think the chances of Bo Horvat suiting up in a place other than Vancouver are second to none. It's going to be a really hard goodbye to their captain, but it's the right choice. The rumor mill is always leaking, as you guys saw in my Horvat to Toronto video, but we had Jim Rutherford tell the media, quote unquote, "I believe we've taken our best shot on Bo Horvat. With the offer we have on the table right now as fair value for what he's done up to this year, we're in a pickle here. He's had a career run and he's looking for his money." End quote. With management looking for changes, especially with Horvat, why don't the best team in the NHL take a swing at him? Why don't the Boston Bruins make a move for Bo Horvat? The Bruins have been near Stanley Cup favorites since the time they made the final back in 2019. Every year they're being seen as a threat. They won the President's Trophy back in the 2019-2020 season, and it's very likely that they will win it again as they sit first in the league with a 38-5-4 record. This team is so good that they're actually the quickest team to reach 80 points in NHL history. The second highest team in the overall standings is 12 points behind them. If Boston adds a top 6 forward into their lineup, especially a guy like Bo Horvat who's having a great year, they are pretty much locked in to become Stanley Cup favorites. Imagine the Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak line up in front with a second line consisting of Hall, Krejci, and Horvat. Horvat can play bottom 6 minutes if they want to pull Craig Smith or Pavel Zacha into the second line or first line. They're just that good. Even if Boston doesn't get Horvat, they are still really good. It's pretty much the Bruins' opportunity to lose right now. Knowing how good the Bruins are, I'm sure Patrick Alvin and Jim Rutherford will be trying to maximize what they can get from Boston. We already know that Rutherford's planning to retool rather than rebuild, which is smart and would be even smarter if they can send Horvat to Boston specifically. I think the Bruins giving up a blue chip prospect and a guy like Fabian Lysell would benefit the Canucks farm system, as they currently have one prospect in Jonathan Lekkerimäki. And what I mean by one prospect is that they have one developed prospect who can probably be the next guy to go into the NHL. And let's just talk about Fabian Lysell, the Bruins' first-round pick in the 2021 draft. He just turned 20 years old like a few days ago and got his first taste of North American junior hockey in Vancouver with the Giants last year. That one season he played in Vancouver saw him notch an unbelievable 62 points, where 22 of those were goals. Scouts have praised him for his extreme speed and creativity, marked by an NHL-caliber shot. He also dominated the competition in the playoffs, pushing his underdog team past the high-powered Everett Silvertips and into a matchup with Logan Stankoven and the Kamloops Blazers in the second round. He ultimately finished with an impressive 4 goals and 21 points in 12 games. So coming into the AHL this year, Lysell has continued to produce with 8 goals and 21 points in 25 games. So yeah, overall he's just been really, really good in junior, with exception to his international results, where in the 2023 World Junior Championships, he went pointless. His only stats were 29 penalty minutes and a negative 1+-. To make things worse, he was actually ejected in Sweden's final game of the tournament after taking a major penalty for a check to the head. Yeah, not very good, right? But with exception to his World Junior Championship performance this year, his development has been very good so far. He's got a lot of potential to become a top-line winger in the NHL and could very well be a 20 to 30 goal scorer every year. The Canucks are not in a dire need of wingers, but they should certainly look into him if and when Brock Boeser and Connor Garland get traded, which is highly expected right now. They will need someone to become Elias Pettersson's sidekick, and it cannot be Luke Hughes. Imagine the chemistry that could be developed if we see a Swedish lineup of Lekkerimäki, Pettersson, and Lysell. That would be great provided Vancouver plays their cards correctly. So if we have Horvat going to Boston and Lysell coming the other way, why not throw in Boston's first-round pick this year? Considering how Boston's doing right now, the pick won't be really high in the draft, maybe say 29 to 32nd, But with the draft class we have this year, we could see elite talent until the third round. So the pick could very well be the same as, I don't know, say a top 20 pick from last year's draft. There are some really good right-handed defensemen in this draft, such as Lukas Dravicevic and David Reinbacher, who are both projected to be late first-round picks. Imagine if they manage to get lucky and get the first overall pick as well and have their potential franchise player in Connor Bedard up at center. They can manage to trade an aging Bo Horvat to potentially get a prospect at wing in FABIAN LYSELL. They can get someone at defense, such as Dravicevic or Reinbacher, and with any luck, Connor Bedard. That would be absolutely amazing for Vancouver, and just imagine what they can get with other guys in Besser and Garland and maybe JT Miller if he ever turns around. But if Boston catches on to Rutherford's plan and decides to not offer Lysell in the draft, hang up the phone immediately. I mean, I think it's only fair for Vancouver to get a prospect for Horvat along with a fair draft pick. I mean, Horvat is having a really, really good year. However, given the scenario Horvat is under, being an unrestricted free agent, therefore free to sign with any team he chooses, we could see Don Sweeney say no to this trade and picking up Horvat in the offseason without giving up any assets. But just imagine Horvat as a test drive, aka a rental. It's not like Horvat's going to come to Boston and become a huge liability and make an ultimate change in a negative way to their team, right? He would help them in certain ways. If the Bruins don't get much out of him for the rest of this time, then yes, it's very fair to let him walk in the offseason. But they can just test drive him for the rest of the season and see what goes on from there. Horvat is going to intrigue Boston for sure. Couple reasons why. First off, their team is very old. They have the 8th oldest team in the NHL in terms of average age, with guys like Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci just continually aging. There's no guarantee that either player will return next year, as Bergeron is 37 and Krejci is 36. To convince Sweeney to give up his young top prospect and a first-round pick in the deepest draft in recent times, it's going to require Horvat to be in the Bruins lineup for longer than just this year. This could be a little difficult considering that Horvat would probably be demanding nearly $8 to $9 million in AAV, and Sweeney needs that money, maybe even a little bit more, to pay David Pastrnak, who's most likely going to cross the 100-point mark this year. He has 69 points in 47 games, and he's only getting paid $6.4 million right now. He's finishing up that contract. It's an absolute steal for the Boston Bruins. I would expect Pastrnak to get at least $10 million AAV minimum. He's been arguably the best player on the Bruins this year, with exception to Linus Ullmark. To wrap up this video, I will admit a few things. A lot of teams are into Horvat. I think it's very obvious right now. The Bruins may not be, the team for Horvat, but it could certainly work for both teams if the Canucks can build their future in the right direction with Lysell, and the Bruins can go on their quest for another cup with Bo Horvat. The interest levels just grow by the day, and Sweeney doesn't have as much, young talent as a team like the Canes or the Kraken or the Wings to maybe give the Canucks a decent return. Not to mention how Sweeney also doesn't have the best pieces to fulfill the asking price of 3 players as in a prospect like Lysell. So with all that being said, I genuinely don't know what's going on in the Bruins front office right now, and the same would apply for Vancouver, but something could be brewing between these two teams, and Horvat would most likely be in the midst of it. We won't really know until Horvat is in fact traded, and we all know that day is coming very, very soon. So let me know in the comments what you guys think about a Horvat trade to Boston. Do you think Lysell is worth it? Could it be somebody else? Let me know. Otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in and have a wonderful day.